Hi, I'm Karen Lopez, and I'm a Space Apps Challenge Ambassador and a NASA Datanaut. I thought I'd put together this quick presentation to make sure your time during the Space Apps Challenge is less stressful and you're more successful in your submissions. Space Apps Ambassadors are volunteers from the space community who are happy to help you get through the 48 hours of the Space Apps Challenge. I hope you're as excited as we are about this. But let's first talk about your project and managing time. Remember, most of the challenges are about using open data, but not all of them are. I'm going to talk primarily about the data-related challenges, but all the tips and techniques I'm going over here apply everywhere. So one of the great things about working on such an exciting project that could change the world is that you could end up using all your time developing your solution or your artwork or your ideas, and you run out of time at the end to make sure that your presentation is going to help you succeed and get to the next level. It's important that you make sure that you plan your time accordingly. Remember, just like with launches, there's a countdown at the end, and the way you manage your time, the way you make it less stressful, is by thinking about what deliverables, those things you have to submit first before you start the work. The deliverables that you need to submit vary based on the type of challenge. They might include code, screenshots, hardware, art, ideas and plans, or solutions that you have designed. All the challenges require a demo. That's a way of you showing how your project works. And you'll use a submission form to ensure the completeness of your submission. These deliverables are what judges are going to use to evaluate you against the criteria, the rules, and the awards categories. Judging looks at the completeness of your submission, the fit of your solution to the challenge, what sort of innovation or inspiration your solution has, the impact it has globally, and the types of data or resources or science you used in order to solve the challenge. I want to make sure that your solution is going to be judged completely, and the way you're going to do that is make sure that you followed all the rules. So for instance, one of the rules is your submission needs to be in English. Another rule is that you can't have profanity, that you need to be using the open data and resources in your challenge, and that your answers to the submission form fully answer the question that's being asked. Also, I want you to ensure that you enjoy your time doing the challenges. If you have data criteria in your challenge, you're going to need to be able to show what sources and what data sets you used and where they came from. The partners in the challenge, NASA, ESA, JAXA, CNES, and CSA, all have offerings of open data and open resources you can use. Can you use other data? You can, but remember the judging is going to be based on these sources of data. Using open data can sometimes be a challenge, and that's because these data sources came from all kinds of groups and departments and projects within the space agencies, so they don't always look the same. You need to study your challenge to make sure that you understand what types of data you're going to need for your solution, and then budget time for finding the right data, because that's going to take longer than you think it's going to. Understanding that data is going to take longer than you think it's going to. So I encourage you to look for metadata and the documentation that comes with the data sets. And that level of documentation is going to vary based on the data sets. That's why we have subject matter experts available to you during the challenge that you can ask questions of. Now, they might not be experts in the actual data sets, they might be, but they're going to help you interpret and use that data. The dataset owners that are listed on the open data sites might not be available to answer your questions. So I encourage you to look through the datasets, find the datasets, understand them, and get your questions to the subject matter experts as early as you can in the process. The demand for answers and understanding the data involved is only going to ramp up as the challenge goes on. I also want you to remember that data can be weird. It isn't always the data that you need for your solution, and that's because the data was originally created and curated, likely to solve other problems as well. So here's an example of data that was misunderstood in a NASA data set, and this made the news a few years ago, where a teenager said that he had found an error in the data set. And the error was that a sensor was returning a -1. But I'm here to tell you that that probably wasn't error at all. That was probably something designed into the data set to indicate that there was no reading on that sensor at the time. Of course, there's not something as a negative energy value, but that -1, I can guarantee you, was used to say the sensor returned no data at all. We in the data field call that a null indicator, but many times in data design, these special indicators that I call a faux null are used to indicate something other than the value in that data set. So you'll need to watch for those. You will need to understand that data that you're going to use, so make sure you budget time for that. Here's my recommended process that you should follow. You need to find the data and resources you need for your challenge. Next, you should understand that and ask questions from the subject matter experts in Rocket Chat. Rocket Chat is going to be the mechanism that you use to get support on your project. Anything else, Twitter, emails, other social media, your questions likely won't be seen. This is the primary way you're going to get answers to your questions, so make sure you're signed into Rocket Chat and you understand where the information and where the support for your challenge is located. You're going to need to understand those submission questions, so please don't wait till the end to go to do the submissions. Go read what you're going to have to submit, understand it, ask questions about it. Do that before you start all your work. Then within your team, whether or not you're a team of 1 or a team of 5 or how many other people are on your team, you need to assign responsibility to each team member to collect the information and start drafting those answers as soon as they can. You should also, before you start, plan for how you're going to demo your project. Once you have an idea of what solution you're going to work on, start thinking about what's the best way to show judges this is our solution. And I can tell you, the better you are at showing how your solution works and how it solves the challenge is going to take you a long ways towards success. Then I want you to time box or set a budget of time that you're going to spend on every phase or part of your solution. It's too easy to get down to a coding issue and spend way too much time on it and not enough time on getting your whole project done. Remember, if you're doing a coding thing, your project is more than just the code. Once you've done these things and some other things, like deciding, are you going to take rest breaks, how often, how are you going to collaborate with your team members? Once you have all those things done, now it's time to start working on your solution. While you're working on it, develop your demo and your answers as you go, and then you're going to submit your project submission, giving yourself ample time to do this. I recommend 30 minutes or more because you don't want to get to the point when you're submitting and have a problem or not understanding what you're supposed to do and trying to get support for that. You also don't want to be caught being ready to submit your solution long after the solution has closed. Your demo, when you show how your solution works, make sure that if you do a diagram that you've labeled it properly. You can add text blobs to that, you can add screenshots, you can create slides and put diagrams on them. This is totally up to you. You should ensure that you have the tools and understand how to use them prior to the event. So if you're going to record a video, make sure that you have video recording software set up, that you have your camera set up, or your screen or your presentation set up, and that you know how to use them. This is not the time to want to learn how to record a video. If you're going to do slides, make sure you have an ability to create these slides, know how you're going to produce them, start making sure that you understand the tool and how to produce the output from the tool. Please make sure that you meet all the criteria. Read and reread the criteria and rules and double check that you've met all of those requirements. study the challenge, and please make sure that you have answered all the parts of the challenge. Time box your tasks so that you understand that you've only got so much time to spend on a particular part of your solution, and make sure you leave time to submit. Some more tips. Ask your questions in Rocket Chat. Don't ask them outside of Rocket Chat. They might get missed. Space Ops Challenge ambassadors are here to help you find the answers or find the person who has the answers if we can. Don't wait to submit right as it closes. Make sure you've fully shown how your project works. Make sure you've fully shown how your project meets the challenge. And then remember to give yourself and your team congratulations when you are done. That's all I have for this. I'd love to hear about your other time management tips on Twitter, but if you have questions about the challenge, make sure you put them in Rocket Chat. I'll see you there.